Fake it till you make it. I think we all might have heard that before. But how much of it do we do consciously and how much we don't realize that we're doing? My name is Mike.
And it's Yuen.
Welcome to the Imperfect Clinician. Can you fake it till you make it?
What do you mean by that?
Well, the idea for this episode, I think, came from looking at others and looking at myself, starting in a new position, a new job, or even straight after uni.
Yeah.
To see that you are trying to position yourself as more knowledgeable and better than you actually are at that point. And I noticed that when you arrive in a new role or new environment even, you sometimes try to be better than you actually are. So what I'm trying to say by that is you want to present yourself as more knowledgeable, more skillful. And I think that this attitude and this approach in some circumstances can allow you to sort of grow into the role.
So do you mean fake it in terms of the clinical perspective or in terms of your competencies? Or do you think it's more the confidence?
I think in both really, but I think that there are so many factors that are new, and usually there is a steep learning curve in any position. I wouldn't be tempted to say that uni doesn't prepare you to work. I think that it teaches you slightly different skills than you actually utilize at work, and you have to have an idea of how you want to present yourself. And usually it involves you playing a little bit cleverer than you actually are. I think there are so many things to understand as well in the new environment, such as, I don't know, the culture of the team, relationships within the team, history of the team, which you may not be fully aware, or history of your position, also taking into consideration the personalities or individual, bodies in your surroundings. I think also from the clinical point of view, when you are straight after uni or in a new place, you need to understand how the processes really work. And this is where you are trying to, well, you can't know everything straight after uni, and you learn things. I mean, there is a greater focus on, for example, more severe conditions during the uni where you can make a greater impact, and it leaves a little bit more space for your development in the future for those minor things that more people come to you with. And I think this is where you sometimes have to, well, you don't want to go out to the patient to discuss something really minor that you should know, in your opinion, and just say, oh, sorry, no, I have to look it up. I don't know. I think there is no shame in doing that. It's just we want to show ourselves as knowledgeable and skillful.
So from what you said earlier on, I partially agree and partially disagree. So I agree when you say everything is done. I think everything is done differently in different places, but there are also different expectations of your role.
Yeah, and expectations from the team.
Yes. But I am concerned there are risks, because if you don't have sufficient experience and you're trying to put across as you are, there are risks of having mistakes, failures.
Agree, yes.
Whereas I think from what you put across, so if the reaction, I feel, is quite important. So if the patient's asking you something and you go, I'm not sure about this, but I'll find out for you, even though internally you are panicking, compared to you saying, I'm really not sure. It changes the patient's perception to you as a clinician.
I completely agree.
So you fake you tone down the panic and the anxiety when you're not sure about something, but you still come across as quite calm and confident. That's the part of the faking it that I would agree, but not the part where you pretend to know something that you don't clinically.
That is very true, and I 100% agree with you. When it comes to knowledge, we shouldn't make risky decisions, and we should know our limitations. And I think it could be bravery. Sometimes we feel, oh yeah, I know things. It could be self-confidence. This is behavioral, so this is something that you can train yourself to be, or can assume what you're going to behave like, I suppose. I think it's very important to understand, when do you ask questions and when do you question yourself, to prevent any potential disaster here. There is a risk of arrogance here when you are trying to put yourself in a position of know-it-all and you don't have the skill, or if you don't have the knowledge to see it through. And I think this is something that can quite quickly be discovered by the team and undermine your position. So you have to be very careful when you're doing it. I mean, there is a bit of imposter syndrome in that as well. So you appear in a situation where, what am I actually doing here? I don't know enough to, for example, comparing to the previous team member that you replaced, and you want to make the same or even better impact. And this is where you start to, I don't know, increase the confidence in presenting yourself. And with time, you realize how much more there is to learn. And this is the experience. This is where you gain necessary miles in your job to be able to say, well, actually, I have come across same or similar situation before, and now I know how to respond better. This is where we learn.
And I think when you talk about people will see through it, I think you can't fake it for long. You might fake the confidence, but I think it's also important to open up and show your humanity in front of your work colleague and say, this is what I'm working on.
Absolutely.
Not to the point where you think, I'm just going to fake it and people know you're not competent. But on the other hand, we've seen a variety of people within that spectrum of, they are new, but like you said, they're arrogant and they assume they know everything and they don't want to ask questions. And even if you give some pointers, they take it very negatively. And we have sort of an in between where they're calm, collected, and they know their limits and the competencies. And you've got the other end of the spectrum where they're not confident, but they're showing it, and it changes not just patients' perception, but the team and other clinicians' perception of the person.
And also, because we decide with our feelings, it also can undermine the trust we can have in a clinician. I think this is where the experience, I understand experience as a way of understanding and acknowledging of your own personal barriers and limitations. And it is a step to become better, to look out for more options to grow.
Yeah, and I think when you are looking at opportunities to grow, mistakes are inevitable. So regardless whether you are prepared or you're faking it, there's one unavoidable way to learn. As clinicians or in any job, you're bound to make mistakes. That's how you learn. Besides being curious and ask questions, besides being part of the team, you will make mistakes. But the difference in the progression, I guess, after you've made the mistake, the progression of your growth is, it's how you react after you've had the mistake. So I've seen two people making the same mistakes. One was having shaming self-talk in front of a team member that affects the perception of others, whereas one takes it in their stride and say, right, I've made a mistake, what can I do better? And the perception changes because it gives you, and more importantly, other people around you, an insight on how you deal with challenges. So, how would you react if they come to you for a problem? Or how would you react if a disaster is struck, or like we mentioned previously, a mistake has happened?
Because and how about you now? What happened when you first started being a pharmacist or a manager or a leader? I don't know, pick one, whatever, whichever you want to go for.
Sorry, how do I?
What happened when you first started? How did you feel? Did you feel that you're faking it till you make it?
I was faking the calmness because I was very nervous internally, but I knew I didn't want to show that two parts because it will affect other people's perception. But more importantly, if I am showing that I'm nervous, I'm actually more nervous internally. So, Amy Cuddy in TED Talk mentioned about how body language affects our confidence. So, how people sit before the interview affects how they interview. So, if you crouch forward, open, it affects the how you feel internally. In some ways, your body will trick your brain into that. So, even though I was very nervous, I was trying to do like stand up straight, not crouch, breathe, making sure that I do that. Even though I'm very, very nervous, I am trying to fake the confidence as much as I can, but not from the clinical perspective, but more from the confidence. Moressa, I am trying to repeatedly tell my brain, you're going to be calm, you're going to be calm, like a mantra.
Okay.
And then with experience, it slowly becomes a normal thing.
Well, I remember when I came to UK and I started working, I was considered to be quite probably rude, or maybe not rude as such, but impolite. I noticed a bit later on that I'm not thanking and pleasing and apologizing as often as I should, as it's, socially expected.
Yeah, because it's understanding
Coming
the
from a different,
culture.
in Poland, you ask people, do that.
Yeah.
Do that for me. Yeah, you don't either do that for me, please.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a barrier at first, I
So
believe.
I wonder what happens in Poland if you say, do that for me, please, all the time. What would it be perceived as?
I think you would be perceived as not that
Authoritative?
authoritative. Yeah,
Mm.
that's I think fair description. I think you would be considered as, oh, you are really shy
Okay.
and
In a
embarrassed
negative
to ask
context.
for help.
Yeah. Okay.
So that wouldn't put you in that confident manner that you would expect a clinician, leader, manager to be.
So people wouldn't see you as somebody who's a confident leader.
Because you would. So you're asking for help, and that doesn't mean you are, I don't know, delegating in a straightforward way, and
Yeah.
you go around the
I can
things
see
rather than
that.
go straight the route. Yeah. So that was, I think, initially my problem. So you could read it as being overly confident and
Yes.
just not considerate to other team members. And I think this was something that after a while I had some feedback about it, because people, I think people were sort of taking this correction at right. You're from abroad, so you might be, but still it affects them directly. So I was, I had some feedback, and I started to consciously incorporate it into the daily routine, into how I speak to others. What do I thank for? What do I apologize for? And how making sure that I appreciate. You all of a sudden started to sound more appreciative of what people are doing for you. I noticed that it changed me in that respect, that I understood that this perceived, I would say from my previous point of view, like a fake politeness, so
Yeah.
just adding it, it sort of makes those requests and this delegation process a little bit rounder.
Yeah, smoother.
Yeah, a bit smoother, and it taught me that yes, it is a part of us being kind and polite. And I don't just add it because it's a social convention to do it. I always genuinely mean it. And I'm always very appreciative when people are doing things for me. And I make a lot of effort to let everybody else understand. Although at work, I'm quite happy giving feedback to people when I see something not being done right. But I believe that this is something that can be done in a mindful and respectful way. But it is a skill. It is a skill. We're not naturally that great at giving feedback. I think we need to understand that very often you have to give feedback to people who are much older than you. For some cultures, that's a problem. And I think we're going to talk about, we have to talk separately about feedback because it is such a big subject that we're not going to delve deeper into it here. Can you tell me, has anything changed in the way of how you portray yourself, whether you are fake until you make it, when you first became a prescriber?
So there are two parts to it, I guess. So being a prescriber is not straight away after you qualify in the UK. And with any new additional responsibility, there is always the nerve of, am I going to make a mistake? It is my first prescription. I'm going to triple, quadruple check before I sign the prescription. But it also, in terms of faking it, so when I first receive a compliment, even though I was ecstatic, I want to jump up in joy. But then again, like you said, I'm conscious that culturally in the UK, it's not common. So people don't wear their emotions on their sleeve. So I just went, oh, thank you very much. And then went to my room, then jump in joy.
Well, you're not going to high five yourself all of a sudden.
No, but I think it's because I was in a new environment and I wasn't sure where I stand. Well, I don't have the psychological safety yet because I am in the process of assessing it. But in where I am now, I can easily jump from my room to somebody else's room, and they accept me for who I am, flaws and all. So faking not just the nerves, but sometimes also the joy because I wanted to fit in.
Okay, so now I was also wondering about a different aspect of faking it in a way, is when your career path or your professional life is either chosen or strongly influenced by your parents. So can you grow into liking what you're going to do?
Yes, or you do it to a point and then you get the confidence to leave the job and do the actual thing that you
Okay, so it's more work
enjoy.
on yourself.
Yes.
Okay. Or do you think that in the career chosen by your parents, you are going to show it by being, I don't know, arrogant to others and just doing it because you're doing it, you have no other idea for what you want to do, and you just become very selfish and not very fulfilled clinician?
Yeah, I think that because of you feel resentful because it wasn't your choice. Perhaps you were not given the option. And plus, if you then move on to do a job that you don't enjoy and it's draining the life out of you, it's quite normal to be resentful, and perhaps you go into it and do a bare minimum and then you go
Yeah, true.
because you don't know what's the next step. It's quite scary to make the leap of faith to change into something else. And so you choose to stay, but by staying, it's training you, and you are blaming everybody else, including yourself.
Okay, so now, and how about parenting? Babies don't come with a manual, especially for like the firstborn, and from the logistics point of view. So you adapt and just fake it. You put every effort to make the best of it because you don't want to be a bad parent. You want to respond to your baby's needs and to look after it properly. And you can't choose not to do it and instead, read up about it, because no matter how much you read up about it, the baby's still going to throw up on your back, when you're trying to make it, to settle it, I guess. So,
I think with the first one, no matter how much you read, it will never going to be enough to prepare you. And even with the second and subsequent child, it's the dynamics different. So you still have to some extent, play by the ear and fake it, or maybe fake calmness when you're trying hard not to shout at them.
yeah, I completely agree. I must say that having a child is a big lesson of growing into the role.
Yep.
Because no matter, unless you're a midwife that spends time with tiny babies all the time, you will struggle to be ready for everything that is going to come. I mean, there is a lot of unexpected factors, and you just have to play it by the ear, follow your feelings and emotions on how to respond to needs. What if the baby's poorly? How do you recognize it? When is it hungry? Is it unsettled? Is it teething? Is it not teething? Is it, getting up and bumped its head? You just have to do everything from what you feel is right, really.
And what other situations can you think of that you fake? You fake it till you make it.
I think one of them that springs to mind is driving. When you learn how to drive, you learn all the rules, and then you sort of get on the road yourself. And yes, you have some base knowledge, and you have, done enough to pass your driving exam, but this is not really enough to make you into a confident driver.
Yeah,
And
because it doesn't prepare you for the full.
for everything,
Yeah.
it's impossible to be prepared for everything, and that's why when you sit in the car, you realize, well, actually, now I'm there. What am I doing? I'm on my own. There's no one to tell me where to turn, what to do, and what to press, and the situations can be quite difficult. So you have to learn quickly how to set the safety threshold for yourself to avoid any risks. You might be hurting somebody, and it's similar to the clinician's job in that respect. Apart from driving, you fake, I think, a lot of things in life. I mean, it's very tricky to fake emotions, because if somebody, unless you are a very good actor, you learn to read those quite early in life, and that probably stays with you. So it's difficult to fake emotions, but you can suppress the reactions. So not necessarily the emotions, they are very hard to find, but you can suppress the reactions to the events. And with life, it gets really tricky to fake emotions. And with age, you get better to mask it, just like how a child, has no filter. If you were a child, it is impossible for you to fake all the emotions. If you're angry, you're showing it. If you're upset, you're showing it. If you're happy, you're showing it as well.
So maybe we are getting better, or we have the practice of hiding our emotions, and we're not wearing our hearts on our sleeve anymore. Does that make you less authentic?
I don't I don't think so. I think that you can articulate your emotions better and more consciously, I want to say, and you work through negative emotions better. You are part of the group in most of the things that you're doing. You're part of the teams, and you need to make sure that you also set the right example. I don't know, that you develop some sort of a little bit of distance and a little bit of control of how things make you feel.
I agree. You need more practice to put the distance between your feelings and your reactions. So you can feel something when somebody say something and you react, but then the pauses within internally in your head and in your body, that is a practice to cultivate. So the more practice you have, the more measured, I guess, your reactions can be. So you're not as emotionally reactive in situations.
And another thing is what happens when you start to lead the team. So you have some more responsible position, or you're given a senior or manager's position. Do you put barriers, or do you slowly change the things in the team? Do you create a revolution, or you slowly progress into the evolution mode? How is it for you?
I think for me, putting the barriers and dictating changes straight away have a poor, this is based on my experience, it's shown that it's quite poor in its ability to influence others. Because what I'm trying to do is to make sure that everyone believe in the change, or I should say majority of people believe in the change. I don't want to go in and dictate the change. I want to empower other people to do it alongside me. So of course there will be exceptions to this where changes have to be made swiftly because of ethically or morally incorrect behaviors. But I feel most of the time it's very important to understand the team, listen to them, and empowering them to do what is right and rewarding the behaviors that you want to see. So I think I'm more of an evolution, or I should say, a renovation type leader. So I go in, influence, and make changes because I want to engage with people around me. And I'm hoping that any difference that I have started will last even after I leave.
And I think you're going back here to what we were talking about, the age of heart, where you decide with feelings. You try to understand the feelings and how people perceive things rather than the actual ability of the team. And finding the correct behaviors and promoting those gets you a step ahead from the leaders that would, with a strong fist start to put their foot down and try to create a revolution, I guess.
I agree. And I think what you said about ability, you can always develop ability.
Yeah, you can teach the
However,
skill, you can learn the
yes.
skill.
However, with emotions, if the emotions are not being dealt with, it will become a barrier to their progression, to how you want them or how they want themselves to grow.
Mm. So there's one more thing that I was thinking about when we were preparing for this episode. Do you have to have a vision or purpose to fake it till you make it work?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that sometimes you start working in the position of a manager or a leader and you are new to the situation. So
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, you might be a bit of an imposter here, and you might try to exert your, I don't know, or show your confidence to pretend that you know more than you actually know by then. And do you need to have a vision for the future for the team before you start with the team, or build, do you develop it, or do you create it when you know more about the team? Does fake it till you make it require a longer plan of how you're going to grow into your role as a leader?
I want to say when I step in the role like this, purpose of the team is generally already there, as in the purpose of the company or the organization or the people. But the fake it till I make it is a safety netting for myself to deal with the initial jitters until I build relationship with everybody else in the team, and then I empower everybody else and help with their growth, myself including, to work towards that purpose. Does it make sense?
I think it does. Yeah, I think it's quite difficult to know everything when you're starting a new job, and you need to have some base level of knowledge. I mean, you can take over the whole company and change the complete direction straight away. But why would you not want to explore what's already there? I mean, you have to prepare yourself somehow. If you want to make big changes, you don't go with the idea, right, in my opinion, we should be doing this, that, and the other. I don't care what's happened before me. This is what we're going to do from now on.
But I think when you are doing that, you take away the learning opportunity of understanding what was good before and what can be improved on. So what can be good before is something that you can retain and learn, and what can be improved on is then your role to change the direction of.
No, but then it makes you a bit of a gambler when you trying to exert your own power and your own vision on the people you don't know. So it is a big gamble for anybody who wants to start revolution in that power aspect of running the job.
Yeah, and it's power over. I am the leader,
Yes,
hence I have power over you. But
there
I
is
think
limited dialogue here, I think.
Yeah, and I think this it might be helpful in the short run, but I don't see a benefit in the long run.
I think it's more risky. I mean, I think it's better to build on first of all, recognize the strength and then potentially build on them, rather than all of a sudden, change something that you don't fully understand, because the history of the team, of what's been happening so far, it's quite important to understand. Yes, you can make a big decisions, and sometimes they are necessary. Sometimes you have to eliminate people that are just feeding on the team rather than contributing to the team. There are all sorts of things that have to sometimes happen in the team, but you need to have a basic understanding rather than just to show people power and that people have to respect you, because I don't think that's how you earn respect in any organization, for that matter.
I agree. So we talked a lot about different situations where you fake it till you make it is actually more than I thought, because my first reaction when Mike mentioned it was like, no, we don't do that. And then when he challenges me with the different situation that we just discussed, I thought, actually, we do. Probably didn't realize that it was a coping or an adaptive mechanism for you, myself, to fit in. If you have any more ideas where you fake it till you make it, please tell us in the comments. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, thank you for today, and we'll see you next time. It's about time for Yuen Reads.
Welcome to the segment of Yuen Reads. Today I am talking about The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. This is amazing! Oh my goodness. Blew my mind. Blew my mind. I got this book because I was thinking, do I really need all of my meetings, all the gathering as they're supposed to? Is there any way to make it, I don't know, better? Is there a formula? And turns out there is. And Priya's experience with conflict resolution and managing gathering is amazing. It's just the depth of her knowledge into this And the way that she wrote it made it so relatable. For example, like the size of the group matter, apparently. The space per guest matter if you're doing a face-to-face event. And she talks about how venue is a nudge. So depending on what you're trying to achieve, the venue should complement it or not. And the biggest thing I think she said that I really resonated with, and I now try to do that before any gathering, especially the ones that I'm chairing, is to find my purpose. So what is the purpose of the gathering? And I now do that clearly at the start of any gathering. So everyone has a cleared vision and everyone can see where I am. It really helps me with my growth. There are other tips in this book that are really gems, takeaways. I've just run out of places to put my sticky tabs on, ended up highlighting some of it, and yeah, it's all over. But this is a book that I would always go back to. And I've recommended to some of my friends as well. This is, yeah, couldn't recommend it more. Definitely need reading.
You just listened to the Imperfect Clinician podcast. We strongly recommend you leave your email on our website so that we can let you know directly about any news and free exclusive content for subscribers. If you review us on Apple Podcast or Podchaser, there is a chance we can reach more people seeking support and encouragement.
Reflect on how you are now and let us know about one thing you would do differently after listening to us. We love to hear from you, so please keep the questions coming via direct message, email, comment, or record a voicemail on our website. We will do our best to answer you either directly or via the podcast.
Bye for now, and until next time.